From the sea,
this is Border Force 112.
And from the sky, Border Force is watching.
We're a 24/7 operation, 365 days a year.
Boarding suspect vessels, detaining illegal arrivals.
And if they need to be detained, then they're detained in this area.
And turning back boatloads of asylum seekers.
It's the turnbacks that are stopping people currently sitting in Indonesia from getting onto to boats.
Tonight we take you to the front line of Operation Sovereign Borders.
Ready!
And inside the super secretive Maritime Command Centre to discover what people smugglers are planning next.
That they don't care whether they get to their destination or go to the bottom of the ocean. There's only one thing they care about, and that is money.
She's called the Ocean Shield, a $140 million behemoth and the largest ship in Australia's Border Force fleet. This is the first time media has ever been taken on board the vessel for Border Force operations, getting a close-up look at what's in store for those who violate Australian law. We're on patrol off the coast of Western Australia as Ocean Shield heads towards Christmas Island.
Whether it's terrorists targeting our oil and gas facilities, smugglers bringing in guns and drugs, or asylum seekers trying to make it to Australian waters, this is what they're met with.
She is the biggest cop we have patrolling an enormous beat.
She's a part of a suite of surveillance that we have in Australian Border Force and with the military.
Jason Britton is the commanding officer. He and his crew are constantly watching, waiting and training to deal with the next threat.
Are there any time constraints on the surveillance that you guys do?
As you can see, it's night. We're a 24/7 operation, 365 days a year. Yeah, we're all working. We don't stop, and we're out to achieve and of course protect Australian borders.
But protecting 10 million square kilometres of ocean can't be done by ship alone. This is a Border Force Dash 8 that heads out from Darwin, scanning the seas for any suspect vessels.
Australian Border Force cutter, Cape Levique. This is Border Force 112 on 72, over.
Their cameras are so powerful they can reveal extraordinary detail, even counting how many people are on board. Images are transmitted back here to the Maritime Command Centre in Canberra. It's run by the Department of Defence, who monitor every single vessel in our waters, sending Border Force ships like Ocean Shield out to investigate.
Things don't just pop up. We're monitoring all the time, so we've got that time to prepare, we've got that time to intercept.
Rod Brett is the ship's enforcement commander. He and his team are the ones who approach and, if required, board any suspect vessels, including those filled with desperate asylum seekers.
Very unsafe. There's so many people on there that, they're overcrowded. It's extremely dangerous. It's just a danger to everybody, not only themselves, but all those individuals responding.
They're also tasked with turning back asylum seeker boats, a policy loved by the government and loathed by refugee advocates.
In Cocos Keeling, Christmas Island, and then down to Ashmore Island.
Major General Andrew Bottrell served in East Timor, Afghanistan and Iraq, but is now in charge of stopping the boats. In this, his first ever sit-down interview, he explains how turnbacks work.
It needs to be deemed suitable and safe to be able to use. If it's not, then we will provide them with another vessel.
These wooden fishing boats have now replaced lifeboats as the vessel of choice for Border Force turnbacks.
But the turnbacks effectively turned off the dripping tap. They have taken us to zero. We've had one people smuggling venture that has arrived in Australia since late 2013.
Under 5 years of Labor government, 50,000 asylum seekers arrived on boats, an influx so enormous some started wearing Australian sport uniforms to stand out from the crowd. More than 1,000 died at sea, making the perilous journey. Since Operation Sovereign Borders began, 29 boats carrying 740 people have been turned back to where they came from.
If you look at the bigger picture, I'm absolutely convinced that what we have done has increased the level of safety and have absolutely saved lives as a result of it.
If a vessel can't or won't be turned back, then its passengers are brought on to the Border Force ship.
This is the brig, is it?
Not the brig, actually it's just accommodation. We utilise as accommodation for whomever we have on board that we either need to relocate.
Those detained here receive a bedroll, blanket and towel, as well as basic toiletries. Everything they do is watched on CCTV.
We'll have somebody monitoring the cameras, and we'll have a team actually embedded within the area 24/7.
So there'll be a guard in here the whole time?
There'll be officers that will move around the area.
The Ocean Shield can securely hold up to 137 people on top of its own crew.
This part of the secure accommodation is usually reserved for single males. The officers take into account their religious and cultural backgrounds, trying to keep a lid on any simmering tension. Once again, everything that happens in here is being watched by 14 security cameras.
But at all times we make sure that the individuals are well looked after and that they have access to a good quality of support, including medical support as well. Certainly better than they would have had on their own vessel.
Asylum claims are assessed at sea in what is called enhanced screening. Very few have been found to be refugees. Advocates claim the process is illegal.
The thing that that Australians would want to know is what we do safe and is what we do legal? And in both of those cases the answer is absolutely yes.
Those who have a potential claim for asylum are transferred to Nauru or Manus Island for processing, but will never be resettled in Australia. 1,300 people are already there in detention centres, some waiting years to find a new home.
Do you have sympathy for the people who are stuck on Nauru and Manus Island?
But anyone who has been convinced by a people smuggler to get onto a boat, I feel very sorry for them. For anyone that has engaged a people smuggler, because they are the ones that are being taken advantage of here. There is only one thing that people smugglers are interested in, and that is money. And we've heard the comment that they don't care whether they get to their destination or go to the bottom of the ocean. There is only one thing they care about, and that is money.
People smugglers have now been crippled, but with an estimated 15,000 asylum seekers still waiting in Indonesia, business can restart very quickly.
They watch the Australian domestic space very, very closely. They watch the politics, they watch announcements, and they use any and all of those as a means to try and convince people to get onto a boat.
How do people smugglers advertise for customers?
They use any and all means. So there's a lot of face-to-face contact. We know we certainly know they use social media. I think they will always be looking to get back into business. I don't think you can ever declare success here.
Keeping them out of business involves education as much as enforcement.
تقدر توعدني إنه نديم يوصل هنا بسلام.
This is a telemovie about the grim reality of trying to take a boat to Australia. It was funded by the Australian government and broadcast in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran and Iraq.
إن شاء الله يعني أنا هواية مودي ناس لأستراليا.
Countries where genuine refugees can now apply for the 19,000 places available in our humanitarian program.
That we have our borders under control, and that has given the government the space to be able to maintain a generous humanitarian